This is an agenda I put together yesterday that I didn't get a chance to send to y'all. So I guess first thing, approval of agenda. I'll go down it. What I thought we'd do is do an overview of some current information. It's just a little expansion of what we talked about Monday night. Then y'all all got a critical needs plan yesterday by email. Danny's going to go over it with us and explain some of that. And then someone in Danny's organization is going to talk about primary intermediate school concept. And I took all the things I could think of, and it's probably not all there is, but all I think of the needs that we see before us, AITS, the adult ed, and all the other things. I put them in a spreadsheet. And what I'd like for us to do is go through and prioritize those, just as a committee, just kind of see where we all stand and see if we can come to an agreement on that. And then the last thing is to set the next meeting. I have a hard stop about 9:30. I need to get out of here. Y'all can stay all day, I guess, if you want to, but I need to leave about 9:30. So we'll adjourn then. So that's the agenda. Is everybody okay with that? All right, good. And thank everybody for coming. I know it's early, but Sharon and I were talking before. We have to start earlier, add another day to the week, and God didn't make it that way, so we just have to start earlier. I wanted to go over this slide that I really meant to get in the presentation Monday night, because it paints a picture for us. It's pretty revealing, I think. These are the attendance trends for the areas. You can see, I'll start at the bottom. Liberty, since we're here, 2000, it was, in 1996, you see it was about a little over 2,000. Today, it's 2208, so it's been pretty flat, obviously slightly above the line. Daniel has gone in 20 years from 3199 to 3540, pretty significant growth. Pickens, it's obvious that they peaked back around here in around 2005, and it's been going down ever since. 20 years ago, they had 4,529 students. Today, they're down to 4,311. So that's why we have 4 schools up there in the Pickens area that are about half empty. Part of the reason. And then easily, of course, it's growing pretty significantly from 5,369 20 years ago, getting close to 6,000 now. Okay, everybody good with that? Just a little bit of information. The other slide I wanted to talk about. Yeah, make sure I was on the right one. We hear a lot of discussion about how small schools, we're here talking about, over the next few weeks, we're going to talk a lot about small schools. You hear a lot of talk about how great they are for students. Henry, you ask oftentimes what all this work we're doing is going to do for students. But here's the evidence. Those are all our elementary schools, obviously. If you just take it, I had to stop somewhere. I didn't have time to do them all. I wanted to do the top 10 schools, but out of the top 5 schools, 60% of them have the largest population. So 5 of them, 3 of the 5. So East End, Forest Acres, and Clemson are some of our largest schools. They're also in the top 5 performance-wise. Now, obviously, Ambler and Haygood are really small schools, but for the most part, it is. One is, if you look at the overall trend, as the school size goes down, student performance follows. Makes sense? So larger schools are better, and that's the evidence. Like I said, you hear a lot of anecdotal evidence that makes people feel good to say, oh, small schools are best, small schools are best. The data doesn't support it. Here in the county, the data in the county does not support it. Now let me show you what.
So let me ask you, Philip.
Okay.
If you overlay that particular chart on the per capita income per family, you you would also see that towards the end, from 12 to 16, you would
Yeah.
have more, some of the poorest communities in our family.
Yeah, probably
I
so.
think that there's more call allegiance than just the
Could be,
size of the school.
could be. And like I said, this was just the first cut at it.
Well, that could be another reason for combining them. I mean, you put
That's
those students with students that help pull them up.
And so that's Pickens County data. Now I want to show you what happens statewide.
But performance-wise, what are you basing performance-wise? You're just basing the,
Test
Test scores, the whole thing that most, if you can go on any of the sites and search for best schools or, great schools, and you can get a list of best schools in the country, and that's where it came from.
I'd like to see us take that and look at 3 to 6 programs that are going on after school.
Well,
Some 3 to 6 programs, some of the programs that are going on after school, it's complemented to learning in the classroom. I'd like to say, lay that on top of that and just kind of see what that would look like.
Yeah, and we could do income as well.
Okay.
Now, I don't know Forest Acres, Henry, that good point. Clemson is probably, as far as income-wise, is pretty stable, pretty
Clemson,
upper to middle.
in the area, and usually the city owns easily, they're the only two geographic regions in Pickens County that are even in the top 100 per capita income in the state. Now, all the other schools, all the other areas that we have in our county are in the bottom 300
Is that right?
areas in the state.
I would be interested in East End. I would think East End would be a good mixture of both from the
I don't know
areas
what-
they pull
I don't know what
from.
they're.
That would be interesting to see.
You think about Eastland, it is a good mixture, but it has an incredibly active PTO. So its
Eastland.
culture is a lot different than a lot of the other schools because of the resources they have in the nicer neighborhoods and whatnot.
All right. Statewide data is interesting as well, and like I say, you can slice and dice data and find studies that'll support most anything you believe. But anyway, this is just the facts here. There are 639 elementary schools in South Carolina, and I took them and broke them down in hundreds. And again, just to have somewhere to start, I didn't have time to go through all of them, but I took the top quartile.
This is students, less than 200, you mean students.
Students, that's right. So the top quartile schools in it is about 160 of them out of 639 total. 3 of those 160 schools, these are the best schools in the state. The best 160 schools in the state. 3 of them are less than 200. 10 schools, 200 to 300. 9 following. Y'all can read, do as I can. Basically, if there's a clear correlation between school size and student opportunity. And if you spend some time in the schools, you'll see that because the kids in the larger schools have so many more opportunities. There's more reading coaches, there's more principals. But I think the breaking point for assistant principals right here, right, Dan? So you got an additional principal. You can get additional staff, all sorts of ways. So I wanted y'all to see this because we hear a lot of anecdotal evidence. People saying that it makes them feel good that, we got to keep these small schools. Evidence I found doesn't support that. But again, you can find studies to support most anything you believe. So that's that. Any questions on those 2 slides? All right, Danny, I'll give it over to you to discuss your draft. You want a corner each one?
So Terry and Clark yesterday, but I've got to put the date on here, and now it got to the point where I had to put the time because there's so many changes to this thing. I put the time, 3:04 yesterday, because there were about 5 versions yesterday. And so what happens is, just so we'll bring everybody into the same picture, is this entire budget, you could call the people who are the experts in the county fund managers. And so when I talk to about band, right here, I talked to Chaz Paxton at Pickens High School, and highly successful band program, and so we say, Chad, in 5 years, what do you need? Well, and we, same thing with athletic funding. Tommy Plumley represents that fund, and then Aaron Bowles represents that fund. And then Brian Richard, the district office, represents this fund. And so up until yesterday, I gave them a deadline on Wednesday, and they kept changing the amounts on me. And so every time they changed the amount, they kept going. And then to pull us back into the process, back in the summer, in July, we had a board retreat. And we said, all right, tell us where you want to be in 5 years with these challenges that you're facing. And so the board gave us a lot of input in July at a retreat, and we listened all day. And then we had a committee in December. Bill Roach and the committee presented 3 plans. We hired a consultant because the consultant, the needs are so great and so complicated that nobody in the district could spend the amount of time to provide all the different evidence to support the different plans. So the consultant came in at the same time as we had 3 recommendations. And now, here you are with the superintendent saying, okay, I've listened to all these people, and then I gave these people a deadline of Wednesday, say, okay, no more changes after Wednesday. And yesterday at 3:04, we were still getting changes. That's how complicated it is, and that's how things change from the State Department. So when people say, well, they said this 4 months ago, you're right. Things have changed since 4 months ago. Things have changed since 2 o'clock yesterday, because at 2 o'clock it was different than 3:04. So that's why the numbers are changing a lot of the times. And I put draft on this because I'm afraid somebody in this room is going to say, you missed something. And so I have to add something else. Everybody thinks their number's not enough. Every single person. Chaz Paxton, Tommy Plumley, ADs, they're convinced that's not enough money. Barbara Nesbitt, that's $2 million right there. You see these columns right here? I said, Barbara, you got $2 million. You got to stop somewhere. We got a $170 million budget if you combine all the money. So we got $2 million out of 170 that goes to technology. That's not a lot compared to, we're the 13th largest school district in the state of South Carolina. We're not some little bitty school district with a little bitty budget. We got $170 million. So this right here is $2 million. And I say these numbers got to add up to $2 million. And I'm not putting it on here if it adds up to $2 million, $1.
And it does, if you look at the bottom, it's, I giggled yesterday when I saw this. $2 million exactly.
$2 million. That's all you get. That's your budget. So in 5 years, she's got to protect. Now, this is from our budget. The state can come back and say, in every year, Governor Haley's been giving us a little bit of money for technology, but this is for us, we have to plan for 5 years. She has to plan a technology program for our students and teachers for 5 years. Now, 2 years ago, Advanced Ed said, you don't have a capital needs plan. They kept saying, you don't have a technology budget. Well, we had some technology funds, but not for teacher replacement and student devices. And so that was the point where we really didn't have a vision with technology for the district. So this is $2 million right here. That's what that is. And is that enough? Barbara thinks it needs to be $4 million. So, you know, to her it's not enough, but, you know, to me, you got to stop somewhere. You can't just keep going. And because, you know, still, Brian, if I gave him an unlimited budget, he'd probably have $2 million. And then athletic funding would be $2 million. You see where I'm going? You gotta stop somewhere. And so there's been nothing but an ongoing discussion, I guess, for the last 13, 14 months about what these should be. And then out of nowhere comes up things like the A.R. Lewis hot water heater that we didn't know anything about. It was an emergency that came up. And so these things.
Tracks as well, the track. $1 million for tracks up there. Did you?
Right, and this is the rubber track, and it has a lifespan, and these tracks right here and artificial turf at some point in the near future are gonna have to be replaced, and the guess is around 2021. And so that's the difference there. Activity bus, we have about 31 activity buses, and all I'm saying is buy one new one a year, and then every other year buy 2 used ones. And when you buy the used ones, you can use them for yellow buses, pick up kids, or you can drive them to school if we buy them. So all we're saying is buy one or 2 buses a year, and then you don't ever get in a bind. And we were in a bind a few years ago. Kids from 6 Mile Elementary were on the side of the road on 85 in Atlanta and stuck for hours. Why? Because of a lack of vision, a lack of planning. Because if you just buy a little bit a year, just 1 or 2 a year, you don't ever get in a bind to where your kids are on the side road. And if they are on the side road, it's not because of a lack of vision, it's because a bus broke down that was well maintained and not had been driven for 15 years without being any replacements. So we've got to have a vision.
How long did we go without buying buses?
We went a long time.
I'll put it to you this way, I drove them when I graduated high school.
The old white buses.
That are there now, yeah.
Yeah, they're going back into the 90s. Clark, you may know the exact date, but
They're old.
and kids would go on field trips, then the buses would go 25 miles an hour, and then it's because of a lack of vision. Again, if you just do a little bit at a time, you don't ever get in this bind, but you gotta think a little bit ahead. And so, but the band funding, I met with Chaz, and Chaz says, Danny, we've got to have 125,000 at least. And, but we, athletic.
That's divided between 4 bands, right?
Right, that's between 4 bands and 5 middle schools.
Yeah.
And athletics, same way, so it's really split by 9.
No.
And high school gets a little bit more, and middle school gets a little. And then the STEM is a well-orchestrated 5-year plan. Matter of fact, today, one of the state competitions at Easley High School, if you get a chance to go over there, you're gonna have 100 or 60 different teams competing on the gym floor at Easley High School. And in the next month, we've got a huge professional development coming up, and the state has said they think we've got one of the ideal plans, led by Brian Richard, of leading the entire state. And so it's an incredible journey that we're going on right now. And again, this is one side of it. There's money on the other side of the budget, the general fund budget, to match this. So again, this is what we call the students. These are student activities, although you could argue this technology budget up here was a part of the student activity. I color coded it so you could just read exactly what applies to what. So $2 million, and then the 656 was a student activity. And here's the fun one right in here, the facilities.
That's where we're gonna spend the next 3 or 4 weeks.
And here's where, and so if you think that 2.6 million was a waste with technology and the student funding, that's just a difference of opinion. They had to argue with me to get this amount. And so, should it be more? Should it be less? Who knows? I mean, we're doing our best guess and we're arguing. And I don't ever say, do it this way. You got to do it my way. I say start in 5 years and work your way back to a discussion. And Sharon and Clark and Bill and Stephanie, I drive them crazy. Because I say, tell me where you want to be in 5 years and work your way back. With teaching and learning, with finance, with capital needs, well, all of it. Because starting right now and working your way to the 5 years, you got to have the money to match it, the mindset to say, here it is on a sheet of paper. This is how we're going to get there.
Can I stop you right there a minute?
Sure.
That, what he just explained is, for those of us who've been around this a while, it's what happened on the building program. They got a whole bunch of money, and then they made the building program fit the money. What we're trying to do is find out what we want to do here, and then get the money, enough money to do it. But when you do it like the building program was done, you wind up with 4 or 5 classrooms at every school in the district to make everybody happy whether they needed them or not. And we got
And
a big,
you wind up at the Easley High School with 4 short.
with 4 short, that's exactly right. So the idea of planning is is absolutely critical because there's so much money involved.
Okay, and so this, I don't know if this is purple or whatever color this is, but this is all facilities total. And I have to give Dr. Wilson credit for this, because last year when he submitted this is the form he put it in, which is very easy to read.
Yeah.
And you can see 5 years out. And I think we've done a better job of projecting out as a result of everything being on one sheet of paper. So we're just basically using the same format. You could go through here and, I mean, I've driven Marion Thomas crazy. He said, this Saturday, this was last Saturday, he said, you're gonna have a heart attack, first of all. You're no longer gonna be superintendent because you have a heart attack because you do nothing but work. And secondly, driving all of us crazy. It's Saturday. Why are we fussing about this on a Saturday? But this right here, facility painting, 125, you know, so some people, it takes about $80,000 to do a facility. And so I just said every other year we would do the painting. So that's kind of where that's headed, is a philosophy, kind of like the buses. You have 26 schools, and the idea that you're going to paint one or use that amount of money, should it be more or less? It was 125 across the board, and then this week I thought about it and I said, hey, if we just painted every other year of our projects, that would probably be good.
So it said, hey, good yesterday. It needs it next year, believe me.
Well,
if we keep it.
And I think the older schools that did not get renovated, a lot of those need to be upgraded in terms of the things we're talking about right now.
It has bad ceiling tile. It just looks kind of worn and tired. It could be fixed, but.
Dacusville Middle, right here, 225, the carpet needs to be replaced. Dr. Roach has told me over and over, it's past its life, and it's to the point where you've got to do something real quick.
You been out there, Henry? Is it bad?
They had, recently they had carpet in the cafeteria area, so like 4 years ago they swapped that out, resilient tile.
I haven't been to that.
Yeah, kids eat it, and it's carpet, right?
Yeah.
So that's it.
And I don't think it's to put carpet back, but to take it out.
Give it up. You want me to scroll down to those descriptions for you? Or you want to
Well, yeah, I mean, so these lights and the West piping, you can keep on going down.
Well, I'm talking about that,
Oh,
all this stuff. You want to read from there?
yeah, well, and I've got I don't have to, but,
Let's see what you're talking about.
and this is the justification. One of the things I did a poor job of last year was not describing why. And so what we've done is gone back to every fund manager and said, you need to justify it in writing. And so that's what this is right here. So for every single issue we have, that's technology that he just went over, STEM, and then technology and band, facilities. All of those, it tells you the why, like the roof and HVAC. A Haygood roof and HVAC is $1.7 million. Now, that's $1.7 million if we do the engineering and we do the bidding. That's an 18-month process. In other words, the life cycle was finished in 2014 for this. And so to do it on time, like we're talking about with the buses, in 2013, the board should have said, okay, we've got 18 months, so let's go ahead and bid it out and everything else. It's January 2016.
Yeah, can I make a point there?
Sure.
Here's a perfect example. Y'all know, I mean, 5-year plan, every year you add in a year. So this year we pulled in 20, what's the next? 2021. So this plan pulled in 2021, dropped 15, 16 off. I'm looking for Clemson HVAC. See, the way I understand it, this $2.5 million, almost $2.6 million, there, yeah. We're not going to, so it's the next step on this, on Dr. Wilson's plan. This money really needs, some of it needs to be pulled back in here. because we gotta start doing some of this work back in here. We're not gonna come up in 20 and 21 and all of a sudden spend 2.5 million. So, like Danny said, this list is evolving. That's one of the things I'd like to do, because it really skews the numbers. And it frightened me when I first saw them, because I said, whoa, $8 million and whatever it is. Yeah, nearly $8 million.
Phil, what you're talking about is the construction will be during the summertime when we bridge the calendar year.
Yeah, so you do some of the engineering in one year, maybe even buy some materials, and then do the implementation in the other years, kind of like you do at work.
Your plans and everything else has to be done, what, 1 to 2 years? I mean, a lot of times the office
Yeah.
of facilities gets involved, and that's the,
And I don't know if this is the end of life day or the beginning of the end of life day. You follow me? But I think some of that money needs to be pulled back in here. It also helps us on the bottom line.
Right, we've pushed everything out so
Yeah,
far
that's
that we've got like seven projects that are past or at their life cycle. And so that's the bind we find ourselves in right now. And so what is said about Haygood could be said about the other 7. So which one is more important than the other? And so that's, if you don't project out and work your way back, you're in trouble. And that's what we tried to say last year, and that's what we're saying again this year, and that's what everybody said along the way. And so we feel good, because again, we didn't have $3.25 million last October when this discussion started. So we feel like we made a huge improvement. Now, fencing, paving, playground, that's a guess. This is just to repair. We haven't done any repair work for paving throughout the district. Again, this is just patchwork. I had my driveway, just an estimate, and I thought, oh my goodness. And so $100,000 will not do a parking lot. And so this is patchwork for the district. Again, this is a guess. You may, if you're an expert in asphalt or paving, you may say, Danny, you're crazy, that's not enough. But if you're, if you just say, well, don't do it, and like the state, and just have potholes everywhere, then that's a plan too. So, I mean, you can just choose your plan. My plan is, after listening, I think we can at least fill the potholes for this right here. Playground equipment, you're always gonna have needs there. Fencing, you're always gonna have a little bit of needs there. And so is that perfect? No, that's a very conservative minimum amount. And then you keep on going. These schools, the life cycle, Holly Springs and Ambler, I believe, Clark, John, correct me, y'all seen the numbers just like I have, is 2010 or 11. The difference is they're single units, which means they're on the side of the building, easier to maintain, easier to correct, but we're getting to a point where Holly Springs, it's not gonna make it much longer. So we
They're
can't,
inefficient, so.
yeah, they're inefficient. We can't keep pushing these down through here. They're not gonna make it much longer, according to Marion. Croswell's worked on this year, and so the work's being done this summer for Croswell HVAC because it was on last year's plan. As far as the others go, you can see Liberty Elementary is $2.3 million. That's coming up.
Some of that really probably needs to be pulled back, because if we're gonna meet that, if that's the end of life, or we need to spread it the other way, one. But it's all not gonna be spent then, I don't believe, best I can determine.
And then that Dacusville Middle, $2 million. So those are big ones right there. Liberty Elementary, Dacusville Middle, Clemson, HVAC, and then you got A.R. Lewis right there. So you got some big ticket items coming up, and that makes up the majority of this budget right here. So that's the HVAC, and that's the roofing. And then the grounds equipment you can see right there. Again, you're not dealing with some small district. We have a huge amount of assets in the district. We're the 13th largest school district in the state, so we've got a lot to work on. We have 47 service vehicles, 47, and so the same thing can be said for buses, can be said for service vehicles. We said just buy a couple a year. And you can buy used, you can just be efficient with your use, but your philosophy has got to be to maintain what you have very aggressively. but also to make sure that you've got a replacement cycle so that you don't ever put yourself in a situation that we found ourselves in with buses, which is a fleet of buses that is breaking down that won't transport kids safely. Well, we don't want our employees driving inefficient vehicles either. That's not safe. And then the teaching plan, as you can see, a lot of good debate last year wound up with us solving that problem. The Griffin Mill project is just the concept of what are we going to do in the future with buildings. And one thing that Mr. Bowers may want to discuss is the fact that alternative school, adult education, AITS, operations, a lot of the district-wide facilities are not located in a central location. So the discussion has come up with what should happen with those in the future to make the district more efficient in the long run and actually save money in the long run instead of being in different locations. And so the famous number around here is $1.2 million. We think we can do projects for $1.2 million. And so we received an unexpected flexibility with our alternative education, which meant we could push it out one more year before we actually have to have a different type of alternative education. So this has 1.2 taken off the board, so you can take off 1.2 from this right here. That would be $7 million if that 1.2. And again, that was a conversation with Mr. Bowers yesterday that changes these numbers again. So, but going back a little bit, why do we need alternative education at a different spot? We feel like we need to serve 70 kids. Currently, our alternative education is not serving behavior at the Career Center. And we feel like 70 is the number based on the evidence by the number of students expelled, students coming from other states that are in alternative schools, and students who have been involved in the DJJ. And so those three components make up the number of 70 of kids who need to be served for behavior. And we as a county have the obligation to serve kids who are at risk and of high needs, and behavior being one of them. So when we closed Simpson, we basically closed the model of serving that type of student. And so safety is something that we have to consider moving forward. And so again, in 5 years, show me the plan to get there. And this is a plan going forward where B.J. Skelton could be renovated and could be used for that. And again, we've received unexpected flexibility to move this back one more year.
But there's a hard stop, and there's a hard stop. We gotta get that facility up and, a facility up and running by the end of 18, right? Or by August of 18, is that right?
18-19 would be the first school year serving an alternative school for those 70 students.
And the reason when Danny and I talked yesterday, that I said, well, we probably need to push it out because if you look at up here and all the work we got to do, if we decide, if we don't have the intestinal fortitude to consolidate some schools, then we got a bunch of I've got these added up somewhere, it's not here, but 120, 1.1, 630,000, 1.1, 1.2, scratch that, 2.3, 2 million, 2 million. Add that up. We just don't have the money to do everything we're gonna have to do if we keep all those schools up. Now, if we have intestinal fortitude to close schools, then you can save a lot of money, and based on the slides earlier, you can improve student performance. So we're gonna have to decide at our probably, well, as soon as possible, probably not today, but pretty quick, what we're gonna do with these underutilized buildings.
And just to add to that, Mr. Rogers, I think we also, again, I've had this conversation many times, we built all these new schools at one time.
Yeah.
So while 10, 15 years down the road may seem like a long time, 10 years ago is when we started the building program. It seems like yesterday because we all relive it every day. But
Yeah.
if we don't start planning now for all of these schools to go offline at the same time, it's going to be catastrophic. When we, 15 years down the road, you've got all these schools going to come up within a year of each other, they're going to start dropping off.
Well, and the tracks are a perfect example. $1 million, $1 million. Was that one school or was that all the schools, Danny? I don't know.
That was just two.
Just two schools. So to replace all those tracks is $2 million. And then, and like Dr. Schwartz said, it's all gonna happen at one time because we built them all at one time.
So we got to start planning now. Sort of like when you know the roof on your house is about to go bad, you start planning for that.
Well, you should.
We can start
No.
planning right now.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
I wanted to make that point that
Well, and Dr. Murphy, I wish you'd go on down to the very bottom too, because this is something I think we very quickly forget, because it's not something, the athletic restrooms and the innovative center at East High School. We
Yeah, I need
talk
to learn
about,
that.
in 10 years, we're gonna have to but Eastleigh High School was cut, and they haven't even gotten the rooms that they need.
Yeah,
They're
Well,
105%.
For me to put money on this sheet for adding at a school, you have to have a compelling reason. And Eastleigh High School is at 105% capacity. 105% capacity. And so, yeah, they didn't get the 4 rooms, but I don't want us to think the same way we've always thought about building, because the future of education looks different. And so like today, you got a STEM competition at Eastleigh High School. What if we had a large innovative room that could be used for some of that STEM competition, but what if we could use it for daily use and we were granted a waiver and a teacher could be paid more for having larger class size, when the research shows if you have a great teacher and they have 50 kids and the learning goes up, well, you can pay that teacher a little bit more. Well, the state's about to give us some of this flexibility, but you have to think ahead. BMW, a building was built before BMW came. Let me say that again. BMW didn't decide to come, and then they built a building. They built a building with a vision. Somebody was smart enough to build an airport a long time ago. Do you see how the puzzle works with BMW coming to Spartanburg and to South Carolina? It didn't start with narrow thinking. It started with, and in education, we have to start thinking ahead. And so if we want our teachers to teach different, our students to think different, then we have to project BMW type of thinking. And if we don't, then we're going to stay right where we are in terms of, in 10, 15 years from now, when people are building flexibility, we're stuck with traditional classrooms. We have to start thinking different for the future in order for teachers to be able to get outside and for us to be able to reward their excellence.
Okay, why are the STEM competitions on February 6th? We don't want everybody showing up over there at Easley.
I thought it was today.
All the stuff that went out from the state level people said February 6th.
That's next Saturday.
I thought it was today.
Scott, I think that competition thing was to that, like that western region, because there's one happening in the western region and like the state's being divided in half.
So this is a regional today.
Maybe regional, something going on, but that state one is the next weekend, because I've had some people from other parts of the state contact me asking like what hotels are there in the Easley area.
For today.
Which is a great economic thing for our area too, to have them coming and staying in our hotels and spending money here too.
But there is one today, right?
There's something going on.
We'll know in a few minutes.
Yes.
The big one, the one that's going to be a bonanza is next weekend.
Text Brian.
I'll double check with him, but I know that the big one is next weekend.
Okay, text Brian, because
Okay.
when I was talking to him, he said this Saturday.
I was planning to volunteer at it, so I should be there. If it's
I was wondering why you were here.
Dr. Burke, I don't know if you're going to address the use of general fund budget, I don't know if you're gonna get that detailed.
I'll be glad to.
Okay, but I think that needs to be touched.
Barbara, is the STEM competition today or next Saturday?
It's budget thing.
I know the big state one is the first weekend in February.
Deadlocked over STEM competition.
Yeah. Let me just be sure that they may not
Three
be.
to three, man.
Yeah. Hey, my wife's out of town, it'd be great if it's next week, but I was planning to go to that, so save it for.
I just looked up the emails, so this is February 6th.
Thank you.
Are you gonna explain that?
This-
Sure.
I know the state one's
That's what
next.
he was talking
Okay, that's what I just talked
Okay.
about, was the $7,000 would be for a large instructional room at Isa High School that's built differently. Kind of this size right here, maybe a little bit bigger. Open space, allowing for technology use and large instructional use, after-school use. And so just a different way of teaching and thinking. I'm on the General Engineering Advisory Board. They're building things differently at Clemson now, universities and schools are thinking different. And again, we have to think different if we want our teachers to teach different.
Well,
And
are
then-
we going to implement that program in, what's this, 16, 18, 19?
Well, we ran out of money right here, as you can see, so.
Yeah, that's the price, what I say, this much, some of this money,
Well, that's why I got draft up there, because if y'all want to, y'all been fussing at me for a long time about this sheet of paper and changed my mind, so y'all can change my mind and move it up.
we'll be changing right after the
We would like to have that, to take care of those 4 rooms.
Never ends.
A bigger room is what he's saying.
Oh, I'm not
to take
arguing we
care of
don't-
those 4 rooms.
Yeah, I'm not arguing we don't need it, I'm just saying, some of that, we're not gonna spend all that money in 17, 18, we're gonna,
You've got to have
Probably gonna have to,
architectural
we'll have
drawings.
to start.
yeah,
The
we're
year
either gonna
before.
start here and move some of it down this way and build it in this year, or we need to pull some back into this
Okay,
year.
that's good
You follow?
feedback, yes, sir. And the athletic restrooms at Pickens and Isa High School, my concern is the elderly and the handicapped, they have too far to walk at a ball game, and so the restrooms weren't built because we ran out of money. And so, you know, the number 300 to 400 yards is how far you would have to walk to a restroom. You can go to a Clemson football game and not have to walk 300 to 400 yards.
Is that
Go to the
visitors or
restroom.
home side?
Either side, there's no restroom.
None outside for baseball or softball, to any.
Oh, because I know the football stadium, they got the restrooms there.
No, there's
And
none
And
for
that's
the
what
other.
they do, they have to walk to the football stadium from those restrooms. And
And you
so,
have to have somebody there to open the stadium.
Boy, Pickens, that's a high too, isn't it?
it is,
Usually it's even longer.
and so we just said, and
It's much longer.
and again, we didn't put it on this year, but it's a problem that's not gonna go away. And, hey, it's on here for a reason.
Should I tell them what the boys did the first?
No, that's not
The boys
appropriate.
didn't bother to go to the bathroom.
I understand.
Move it.
They did.
Move it.
Yeah, well, that's inside.
Moving on. Okay, 3 big breakdowns, technology, student activity, facilities, and those are totals per year. I think that was 39 million.
It was.
We've taken it down to 35 by, you know, every other year painting and stuff. And so if you think that we're not trying to be good stewards with the money, you know, we're trying very hard. And then the money we have for 5 years that we can count on is 3.25. And that's, I put down here, millage required pending current values and predicted growth. That's a pretty aggressive amount, 3.25, with the value of the mill staying 444. And so, you know, there's things pending. You know, I don't want people to come out and say, well, that's the gospel and everything, because I don't control the economy and I don't control the value of the mill. But that's our best guess. And if you take that, I have $1.7 million used to the general fund budget. You know, a month ago, I had 2.1. And as I stand here right now, I probably think $1 million because I'm getting more nervous. How much money did we lose, Clark, because of EIA, EFA, and what about the other base student cost and all together?
Base student cost was about $7